Hi, friends. This is Adam Shoemaker, Rector at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in downtown Charleston, back for another edition of Rector's Corner. And I'm so very happy to have Joey Froneberger and Wayne Helmly, our music director, who are both our co-chairs this year for Charleston Pride. And we're here to talk about Pride as we are on the cusp at the time of this recording of Pride Week in Charleston. Thank you both for making the time to sit down with me. And I just want to begin by having the two of you talk a little bit about what you know about the history of Pride in Charleston. How long has Charleston observed Pride?
I think it goes back to the 90s, but the parade only made it to King Street in 2013.
Hmm.
And that happens to be the first year that we did the parade. We were at the festival the year before in 2012, I believe. The way that came about, a member of the parish at the time, who's now moved to another state, had bought a slot at the festival, and she wasn't going to be able to use it. So she asked us if we thought that St. Stephen's could maybe use it. So I went to our then rector, David Williams, and he was very open to us having this, but this was also at the time that we had a bishop who was not terribly friendly towards LGBTQ issues. So there was some vacillation back and forth as to whether we were going to participate or not, but we did in the festival only that year. But then the next year when the parade moved to King Street, we then started being in the parade. And I don't think, maybe other than the COVID year, we've missed a parade since.
Do you know where the parade was, if it wasn't on King Street prior to 2013? You said it might have started as early as the 90s.
Yes, but I think it was in North Charleston then, if I'm not.
Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting. Do you know some of that background, Joey?
I don't, and I'm sorry to say that I don't have any more information than what Wayne's already given us here. But
Well, and you brought up an interesting point, Wayne, that around 2013, I mean, that really was early on in the years of the schism that we have experienced in this diocese. Were there any other Episcopalians outside of St. Stephen's involved with Pride at that time?
No, not at all. And in fact, we were one of maybe two, possibly three churches that were participating at all back in those days. And we were certainly the only Episcopal church that was participating.
we were the first Episcopal, or we were the first church to march in the parade. I believe the Unitarians may have had a booth at the festival, but we were the first church to march in the Pride Parade.
Wow. Was there blowback with the diocese when St. Stephen's first participated in the festival or in the parade?
Not that I was aware of, but we could have been shielded from that. I'm really not sure, but you know, we were extremely aware that this was not going to be something that was going to be embraced diocesan-wide. That's for sure.
Well, and you've talked about how we have had a presence as St. Stephen's in the parade since 2013, but of course, St. Stephen's history around LGBTQ inclusion, LGBTQ civil rights goes back much further. Could the two of you say a little bit about that history?
Well, that goes back to the very beginning of when St. Stephen's was sort of resurrected, as it were, back in the 80s and the early 90s. And it's my understanding, this was prior to my time. I started in 2009, advent of 2009, but it's my understanding that there was pretty much an LGBTQ presence at the parish from that point forward, and it only grew over time. Is that your
Yes, so I think that St. Stephen's has kind of followed the trend of the Ansonboro neighborhood as a whole and the city of Charleston. So in the 40s, 50s, 60s, when Ansonboro was largely African American, St. Stephen's was as well. Then you had kind of, if you want to call them gay pioneers, moving into Ansonboro and starting to spruce up properties and whatnot. And then they realized, hey, we have this great little church right here in our backyard. And actually, there are still a few parishioners today from that period of the 70s and 80s and 90s who kind of paved the way to make St. Stephen's the place that it is today. So.
Yeah, and I know Alan Houghton, who was the priest that arrived in the late 1980s with the mission to integrate the church. From all I've learned about Alan, seemed like a priest who was very open and very much wanted to support total inclusion in the life of the church. And I do think people gravitated to St. Stephen's for that reason. And then I think in the 90s, we did have founding figures of AFA in our congregation. Is that right?
That is true. Also, Tom Myers, who founded We Are Family, was a member of St. Stephen's during those years as well. So, yeah, Linda Kattner.
The Redmond Gresses, Warren and Jim.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So that
Yeah, the history goes so far earlier than the parade, of course, our church's involvement in these issues. And much has changed, but obviously we still find ourselves, as we talk today, in a very challenging context. And I wonder if the two of you could talk a little bit about, even as we find ourselves now at 2025, why it's so important. And happily, there are more churches, more Episcopal churches who have joined in with us and will join in with us. But why is it so important, particularly for the faith community, to be involved in Pride?
Well, I'll use us as an example. So we were married in St. Stephen's by our then bishop, the Right Reverend Charles von Rosenberg, with our then rector assisting, Reverend Bill Coyne. And right now, in the next few months, our marriage is going to be debated, for lack of a better term, or considered by the Supreme Court. And the push is to dissolve all same-sex marriages in the United States. So that is one good reason right there that the church needs to be involved, because as far as we're concerned, we were married, we will be married in the eyes of God, whether the state of South Carolina or the United States considers us to be married or not. But the fact that the church did marry us then gives the church a stake in this game, because the Episcopal Church has performed, Lord only knows how many same-sex marriages at this point. And, for the United States government to say that they are null and void, well, that's an issue.
I think that up until a year or two ago, we were starting to become, I don't know if complacent's exactly the word that I'm looking for, but we kind of felt like we had accomplished it all. And maybe some people didn't necessarily see the need for things like the Pride Festival and the Pride Parade. And I'll admit that even Wayne and I were kind of running the committee on autopilot, and we felt like we needed to keep doing it because we knew that there were some aspects of the community, such as the transgender community, which has kind of lagged behind as far as rights and acceptance. But overall, we thought we've accomplished all we need to. This is just kind of our victory lap that we're going to keep doing year after year, and then we see it over the last year or so that that's not necessarily the case. And so it's very important that we get out at this time especially and assert our rights and let people know that we're still here and we're not going anywhere.
historically, there's always been 2 steps forward and 1 step backward with any progress. And we're in danger of going at least 1 step backward, if not further than that. I mean, there are some people who are calling this the LGBTQ's Jim Crow, and I don't think that's an exaggeration.
Well, and to me, it continues to be communities of faith, much to my chagrin and even shame as a priest, that often lead the charge on so many of these attempts to roll back rights, which for me makes it all the more important to have the faith community show up and show out in these parades. And that sort of leads me to my own reflection since I've been rector of St. Stephen's, participating in these parades, because it is always so very moving to march down King Street. And in recent years, we've had a cross leading us forward, and people instinctively get, I think particularly the young people that I see on the sidewalks, you know, when we pass near the College of Charleston, instinctively get, I believe, that the churches are the most subversive participants in the parade, because the church, the Christian tradition, the Holy Bible have been used so often as weapons and battering rams. And so to me, it's just so important to see as many faith communities as possible come out.
You're absolutely right. One of my favorite stories on that count. So the festival used to be at Brittle Bank Park. And for the longest time, the only time we could get a permit was in August. Why? Because nobody else wanted a permit in August, because who wants to be outside? Right. So we would be standing out there sweltering year after year. And one year, when Bill Coyne was our interim rector, this young man came up to speak with us in the tent in his fishnet hose. And I have this mental picture. I wish I'd thought to pull out my phone and take a picture, but I have this mental picture of Bill in collar, standing there talking to this young man in fishnet hose. And as the young man turned to leave, he said, I think I'm going to come to church tomorrow. And Bill said, that would be great. And then he turned back around and said, but I won't be wearing these. And Bill said, well, you can if you want. And the look of delight on his face. So yes, the witness that we give in this context cannot be underestimated by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, and I also would add, thinking back to the time of 2013, how wonderful it is to now have the active presence of our bishop in this parade. You know, it's been a long time coming to have the Episcopal authority of the diocese fully behind this effort, and we've come a long, long way from, I'm sure, what it must have felt like for all of you in 2013.
Well, absolutely. And so what's different this year and very, very exciting is that for the first time, the diocese has participated for the past couple of years, but this year we've teamed with the diocese. The Reverend Ryan Curry has been coming to all of our meetings, and so we're teamed together. And at this point, we've been told that there are 8 other parishes in addition to St. Stephen's, which will make 9, that will have some sort of presence at the parade. And that's a huge growth, and we're very excited about that. We're looking to have maybe as many as 200 people or more to participate in this, and that makes a huge statement.
That would be incredible. And have we succeeded in getting St. Stephen's and the diocese in the same spot in the parade?
Yes, in fact, we'll all be under the banner of the Diocese of South Carolina.
Okay.
They registered everyone, and we'll all be together.
And that's something important to keep in mind when everyone goes to meet up at Rag Mall. you're looking for our group, make sure that you tell the volunteers that you're looking for the Diocese of South Carolina.
Right.
And it's not just St. Stephen's, so that way they'll know where to direct you appropriately.
Okay, and can you talk for those listening in about the specific details? We've been making these announcements in church, but for those perhaps who haven't heard, want to be participating, when do they need to show up, and are there still T-shirts available?
Oh, there are still T-shirts available. So yes, we've got these great T-shirts that we've had for gosh, I don't know how many years now.
Since the beginning.
But so, and on the front, it's got the St. George shield, the symbol of the Episcopal Church, but it's been gussied up a little bit with some rainbow crosslets, and it says, "The Episcopal Church welcomes you." And on the back, it says, "Especially this one," and then has Rhett Thurman, our parishioners, beautiful painting of the church on Easter Sunday, and then our name. The T-shirts will be available this coming Sunday after the 9 o'clock service and before and after the 11 o'clock service. We're asking that everyone wear their T-shirts. Many people have them from years past. We can't understate or overstate how much of an impact it makes when people see 100, 125, 150 of us all marching down the street in these same T-shirts, and they know exactly who we are and whose we are. The diocese will be, they have their own T-shirts as well. They're using the same front of the shirt, but then they have the diocesan seal on the back, so we'll still look like a large cohesive group. But yeah, so make sure if you don't have T-shirts already to get them. We will have them, as I said, this coming Sunday after the 9 o'clock and before and after the 11 o'clock service. We're asking for everyone to meet at Rag Mall, not Rag Square. That's a different location, so don't go there. You'll be waiting for a long time. At Rag Mall, which is right across the street from the Charleston Visitor Center, to be there no later than 8:30. The parade begins at 9. But we will, especially for those who are able and interested to arrive a few minutes early, it'd be appreciated because we're still going to be giving out final assignments for banners and flag carriers. We will also be handing out fans with the church's information along the parade route, so many folks will be able to hand those out as well.
And I don't know if we mentioned the date. This is Saturday, October the 11th.
October the 11th. And for those who might be wondering, do you know approximately how long the walk is?
It's very short compared to what it used to be. It used to be pretty long, but I don't think this is more than about 2 miles.
Okay.
So it ends, generally speaking, in the antique district of King Street, around the Library Society in that general area.
Yes, so the parade will it'll depart from Rag Mall, walk down Ann Street to King, then south on King, and I believe the terminus is Market Street. So in years past, and when we were doing this in August, it went all the way down King to Broad and over to Colonial Lakes. So about half the route and a much more temperate season now as well.
Yeah, I believe my first year, it was still going all the way down Broad, and that did seem like a definitely a longer clip to go all the way down there.
And now some people do decide to continue the parade on their own. So one year we just couldn't stand to turn off the music. So even though it ended at Market Street, we continued on with the music blasting and rode down Broad and up East Bay Street. So if you want to continue the parade on your own, you're more than welcome to.
Well, and that's just a reminder of how fun a day it is, how moving, inspiring, uplifting it is to participate. And hopefully with the weather starting to get more temperate and comfortable, we'll get a nice, beautiful day for the parade itself. For those listening in, I do also want to flag that we'll be kicking off Pride Week that leads up into the parade by hosting once again the Interfaith Pride Service, which will be happening October 5th at 5 p.m. There'll be various clergy from not just Episcopal traditions, but from many faith traditions participating in that service. So folks are more than welcome to come. And it sounds like, Wayne, there's lots of special music planned for that service.
There is a lot of special music planned for that service. Our choir will be there in full force. I think we're going to be joined by a few members of the Unitarian Church. Xavier Williams is going to be the soloist, and it's going to be a rocking good time.
Terrific, terrific. Well, please, folks, for those listening in, please join us for Pride Week, for the service, for the parade. It's such an important time to show up. Thank you so very much, Wayne and Joey, for your time, for your leadership, for the whole Pride committee. And if you've not gotten your T-shirts, come to St. Stephen's this Sunday morning, October 5th, and you'll be able to pick one up. I'll be back
for the great price of free 99, not $3.99, free 99.
Free
$3.99. Who can beat it? Who can beat it?
And beat it. And we really do want to thank our committee. They are second to none. We have the greatest committee in the world, and we're so grateful for the leadership and the work that they put into this.
And thank you as well, Father Adam, for your leadership and work on this.
Absolutely. Well, it's such a special time of year for our congregation, and looking forward to it. Thank you so very much for making the time for this conversation. Thank you for all those who've listened in. I'll be back next month for another edition of Rector's Corner. In the meantime, friends, you stay safe and well, and you keep the faith. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for having us.